welcome to PD Reimagined. We are so happy to have you guys here. Welcome new friends, welcome old friends. Some of you may have been in our program before, so you'll know exactly what to expect, and others may not. But all of you guys are so welcome here, and we're so excited to see you. This may feel like a really small step for you guys, but we see it as a giant leap forward for education as a whole, because yes, you are the heroes that nurture and guide our future thinkers. And we really want you guys to realize how important that is to us and also the world. Don't forget, guys, there's this dashboard. The dashboard is your home to everything. So this is where you will learn where the next summit is. You can access the summits from here. This is where you can have access community. And each month, this is where you put your commitments in right here under commitments. And this is kind of something new for us. This is the discounts that we're offering. So we have gone to lots of different private sector companies, and we are offering discounts and getting you guys discounts and special experiences from these different companies. And that's where you're going to find it. So go check it out for sure. Our purpose here is really, we want to celebrate, honor, and inspire you as educators. And since every month you're going to be in this amazing community, we're going to try and keep your cohorts consistent if Zoom cooperates with us. And so hopefully you'll also walk away with some new ideas and friendships and some strategies. We will be adding some events for you all. So in-person events, think sound baths or hiking or wine tasting or lots of different things. So on the dashboard, we'll let you guys know when those are. Okay, we want you guys to meet your cohorts. Now, we're not going to have everyone here, but hopefully you'll at least get to meet each other. We're hoping that we can also connect you guys by text message on WhatsApp so that you guys can 24/7 sort of text each other and stay in contact and get to know each other throughout the entirety of the program. The purpose really of the cohorts is we want you guys, we want you guys to reflect. And we want you to connect with people. And so we're going to have you guys meet each other now. So spend 10 minutes in your cohorts, introduce yourself, and you can say what inspires you, from karaoke to whatever it is. And if you could cast one spell and make your life as a teacher easier, what would you do and why? So those are the breakouts. Andy, can you pop people into breakouts for me, please?
Yes, I'm opening them now.
Amazing.
So it looks like we have a lot of people.
Maybe should we just do a social, a random one?
Let's do a random. We have, 21 people that are when
amazing.
People don't sign in with their email that they sign.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. So let's.
We'll have to figure out. Well, I think what we're going to end up doing is giving you guys just a number, that a constant breakout number, and then you guys just select that breakout room. I think that's going to make the most sense moving forward. You know what then, Andy, why don't you figure that out while we go with the rest of it, and then we won't do this bit just yet.
Yeah, okay? It takes 50 seconds for the breakout rooms to close. It's
perfect. No worries. So this summit, we're talking about taking time for you, even when the show must go on. And we all feel like this, I think, as educators. There's just so much going all the time. It's a constant pressure, and it's not easy to take time and just take a breath for you. But so we're going to talk today about the concept of energy in and energy out. What does that mean? And the magic of leaning into a purpose to supercharge you. There are certain things that give you a little bit more energy than other things. And what strategies might help when the show sort of does have to go on and it's all moving around you and it's chaotic, that has you a little upended, and what can you do for yourself? We're going to have our special guest, and she's going to talk for 30 minutes, and then we're going to explore some themes and have a Q&A. We definitely want time for you guys to also ask some questions. And then you guys are going to hit into those breakouts if we can figure them out. And you're going to share one big aha moment that you had from today, and then collectively come up with some strategies. What are some strategies that we can use that we learned tonight that we can try in our real life. And we're going to actually share those back via Padlet. I will say, by the way, that the commitments that you later input in the dashboard, those commitments will also have a question in there as to whether or not you would like to go in the draw to win a prize. And every month it's a different prize. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed meeting each other and liked your cohorts and so forth. We are going to be working in those cohorts to later come up with some strategies. And when you go and do your own commitments for the dashboard, you will also opt into different prizes, monthly prizes. They're going to vary every month. This month, it happens to be by Dawn Levy. We have a lovely letter that she wrote as to why she appreciates teachers that I'm going to share with you all in the next box. She very much appreciated being part of the program and felt very humbled that teachers would love her stuff. And I wanted to share this with you. So if you like this coat, it's available in copper, black, or this abyss blue. Then do opt into it when you do your commitment for the month. So this month, you got your inspiration box or a digital box. And in the physical boxes, we had a moon man, some popcorn, some Harry Potter playing cards, and a journal for rediscovery. And we want to sort of, I'm sure you've been percolating as to who this could possibly be. There were additional clues, including that they can put on a show anywhere, anytime. They are known for many, many accolades and awards. They love LSB. They're a trusted friend of some of the world's biggest superstars. But Andy, I think we need to put them out of their misery. Why don't we unveil who our mystery guest really is?
Ultimate Scream goes to...
The Troops premieres Tuesday, December 13th on...
Welcome, Casey, my beautiful friend. Let's put on your video and show your beautiful face. Casey is an unbelievable, prolific producer. She happens to be a dear friend of mine too. She is one of those all-around good people. But I just wanted to share some of the credits that are to your name and some of the things that you've created, because you're both created and produced. And one of the reasons that you're such a trailblazer, other than the fact that you're a woman in an award show business, which I think you're the first one. You can correct me, but I think you're the first one.
Sure.
But the way that you think about these shows and the way that you influence culture or let culture influence content and have that be a synergistic sort of development is unbelievable. And it's like no one else. And that's probably why you have so many amazing credits to your name. And I know you're hating me for saying all this stuff because you hate the limelight. But let me just read some of the credits that Casey has to her name. So it included Harry Potter 20th anniversary, return to Hogwarts. She also did the West Wing special to benefit When We All Vote with Aaron Sorkin and Michelle Obama. Global Citizens Vax Live, the concert to reunite the world. You were the co-creator of Lip Sync Battle, correct? There were Netflix, A Very Merry Christmas, Rock the Troops with Dwayne Johnson, MTV Music and Movie and TV Awards. The list goes on and on and on and on. I mean, it's just incredible. So
I'm exhausted listening to that. Out.
So welcome, Casey. But I wanted to we're talking about how we take time for ourselves when the show must go on. And I thought, who better to talk about this than somebody who actually produces these shows and has an enormous amount of pressure, both, economic, because there's the service piece, but also the responsibility that I think teachers also feel. I think that you have this relationship with the people that you put on the show and the people that trust you, and that you have a responsibility to create this amazing, magical event. And teachers also have these magical little souls in our classrooms, or big souls. And we also have that same responsibility. So I wanted to bring you guys together and talk about it.
Wow, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I will admit, when you first asked, I thought, oh God, what could I possibly have to offer in this context? But then as we talked about it more, there is common ground in the hypervigilance required to be as present as you need to be for young people and keeping them safe and healthy and engaged. And in my world, we really understand that because we are gathering a lot of people and keeping them safe and healthy and engaged. And we also, for me, I own a small female-owned and operated production company that deals specifically with very high-end talent. That's all we do. We don't do other kinds of shows. We just partner with talent who have a vision for something, and we partner with them to bring that to life. They're the talent. We're the sort of everything else, the expertise behind that. So it's necessary in the way that we work to sort of hollow ourselves out on their behalf and to be very present with them and to put their needs and their brand and their schedules and their sort of button up against them and put them first in all scenarios and put ourselves second to work alongside them to bring these things to life. So I would imagine on the energy, against the theme of energy in, energy out, the show must go on. You have to pull this off no matter what. I would imagine we do have things in common in that leave you at times feeling a bit like you have put yourself last and a bit depleted. And there are moments where you feel like, wow, I may not, I don't know where I'm pulling these reserves from to keep going, but we have to find ways. And over the years, we work really hard to develop those ways, those reserves for energy.
I wonder, listening to you talk about, putting them first and you second, it seems very like a very difficult position then to say no and have real boundaries, which is probably another commonality that a lot of people feel. Yeah. Do you ever find yourself sort of stretched? Or you're doing things that really are outside the scope of what you're supposed to really be doing, whether it's a therapist?
We do. Yeah, it's a really good question. We do. And we're also set up in a way like teachers, I would imagine, where there's this inherent, well, you have to understand because they're children, and us, well, you have to understand because they're outsized public figures who never hear the word no or can't comprehend the real life situation you're in and all the complexities of that. And you have to put sort of logic and reason and all kinds of other real world issues aside and keep going anyway. And I really don't mean that in a cynical way or in a negative way. I mean that those are just the facts. Those are just the facts of what we've signed up willingly, enthusiastically, passionately signed up to do with purpose. So that's the path I've chosen. But there is that factor does exist. Mm-hmm. It really does. And it's another way in which you go through a certain part of your career and you do that long enough and you realize I feel sort of depleted to the bone. And I love what I do, but I need to find a new relationship to boundaries inside this path so that I can continue to love what I do and be good at what I do and be really present for people and passionate and continue to do great work for and with them. Yeah.
I can only imagine. So just as context, a lot of what Casey does, it all requires an audience. It's all event driven, really. And so when the pandemic hit for you, what did that feel like? This is off tangent. I mean, that must have been a massive added pressure of and a need to pivot and be flexible at a time where you need to keep things going in order to keep it going, right?
Yeah, it was, it felt like I had been playing musical chairs, right? Like running around with the music playing for so long, and it felt like the music had stopped and there were no chairs. And you just, like, the world came to a standstill, and it wasn't, we were first to close down because we deal in large live gatherings of 10,000 to 100,000 people. So we were rightfully the first to close down, and we are the last to come back. So it's been a very long 3 years, a very scary, long 3 years. But I, like so many people in a reflective time, am very grateful for that time because it was needed change for me. I couldn't sustain at the pace that I was going. I couldn't enjoy at the pace that I was going. I couldn't be present with my work at the pace that I was going. I needed to recalibrate. I wouldn't have wished that. I always stop short of calling that a blessing or a silver lining because it just isn't. Too many people were harmed. But I will say, I do take the lessons from it, and the lessons from it were, it brought me right back to, you begin your career with this inspiration. Why did I get into this in the first place? And my story is really grounded in, I was that generation. I want my MTV generation. I was home watching MTV, and it was the first channel that spoke to teens ever. It was like kids programming to family programming. And there was really nothing in between that spoke directly to teens in the way that it did in our language. So the pop culture of that resonated with me, but it wasn't why I wanted to work there. I wanted to work there because of the pro-social engagement, because of the things that they would do, because if they would sing Rock the Vote and make me feel empowered. That, like, oh, that's not just for adults. Like, this belongs to me too. That's not an adult issue. That's my issue too. Or Choose or Lose, or Live Aid, or Live Earth. Like, this is my planet too. These are my issues too. Poverty and hunger and education and all of those things. And it felt like it was pop culture, but it was also a movement. And I thought, oh my God, I love to watch the content, but I absolutely have to be a part of that as a professional. I had no idea how or why, but I cold called the operator, then the hotline, and finally I think they were just so tired of me calling, they transferred me to HR, and I just kept calling them. And finally I just cold called my way into the company because I wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than myself. I felt like that was bigger than myself. And then I think what often happens is you get promoted, you're successful and you kind of get promoted beyond what it is you wanted to do in the first place, and you sort of get caught up in the success and the next steps in success. And that's your new measure, the new metric. And when the pandemic came, I sort of was brought right back to my roots of, for many years, we had done, at MTV Networks, I produced those shows, the Live Aids, the Live Earths, the, things like the Queens of Happenings in the World every night after 9/11. We worked on the pile as a company. We raised money. We show up in disaster. We would show up for relief. We work in our city, we work around the world. So I knew how to do that. I had a skill. It's not the most important skill in the world, but we can raise awareness, we can educate, and we can raise a hell of a lot of money. So when the music stopped, I was able to say, okay, well, from my little corner, from this very desk, what can I do? And I started cold calling, and I called every charity I know. I called every organization I know, and I said, I'm home. Is back to those barter days of, like, people who had farms. Like, I have cows, you have chickens, right? It's like, I know how to do this. So I will, and I want to work with purpose at this time. I want to participate in the world around me. I know what that feels like. I have that skill. How can I do that? And they are the ones I called. the Actors Fund, and they said, we got a call from Aaron Sorkin. Can we put you two together? And I said, yes, let me call Mrs. Obama, who I worked with. And we did a benefit for West Wing for When They All Vote. And then I moved and we said, okay, that's to help make people's vote safe. We're not telling you how to vote. We just want to make you safe in doing that in extraordinary times. And the next thing we did was say, okay, what do people need now? We have a vaccine. How can we get it to the most people? So we did Vax Live with Prince Harry and Global Citizen and the Pope, the Vatican, you name it, every world leader. And we lobbied the world for the equitable distribution of the vaccine. And we then moved on to, issue by issue, and we raised nearly $1 billion in the pandemic for good at that time, which was full circle to, I want to work with purpose. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself, and cold calling. And we would just put on a show for good. So that's sort of what happened to me. And it was a way to center myself again, and in the quiet, find that voice and that meaning. And in doing so, I was able to really recharge.
That's incredible.
Wells of energy.
That's incredible. I love that story. I love the full circle nature of it. And I'm hearing you talk, and I can't help. I actually wrote it down. It was inspiration, purpose, and relationships as such fundamental pieces of your story. I feel like everywhere you've gone, you've sort of maintained this unbelievable, like very strong relationships with people and gathered people together and created the stories that they didn't even know that they had. It's really incredible, but that it comes from that inspiration. It comes from that sense of purpose. So inspiration, purpose, relationships, those are some things that might be energy in, right? Do you find you get yourself, they can provide energy in. What is your take on energy in and energy out? And what are the types of things that for you give you the energy that you need to refuel?
Certainly purpose. Certainly purpose is energizing. I can work a 20-hour day, with purpose and feel energized and get just enough sleep and wake up vibrant and healthy because I'm feeding something bigger, right? There's working with purpose, finding purpose, working with integrity, being aligned with your integrity. It's a big piece of it. At my most financially successful, I was not aligned with my integrity. I was doing things for money, and I was worn thin, and it just didn't feel great. And there was something about it that was just off. I wasn't present. I wasn't enjoying it. I couldn't keep up with it. I felt out of control. So, the slowing down and aligning with my personal values, my integrity, what it was I wanted to do in the first place, and then applying all those skills and those things that I knew how to do from show business and aligning those things, aligning with my intention and my integrity, and walking with integrity every day through that. I will say, I could work the same number of hours and have twice the energy because I was aligned with my purpose and with integrity every day. So that was big. And then in the practical sense, in working from home, I really learned that, we're all in the hypervigilant business. We're all in the business of being really present for others that you have to put first in some ways, whether that's our family or the kids we're teaching or the, talent we're chasing behind, desperately trying to keep up, which is the story of my actual life. And at a certain point, I would worry things to death. I thought if I just continued to think about it and worry about it and plan for every scenario in my mind over and over again, that I would somehow be ahead of it. And I did learn in the last decade or so, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I've learned in the last decade or so that there's no sort of return on that investment. At a certain point, you have to put in a hard day's work. You have to do everything you can do in that day. And then you have to make a promise to yourself that you're going to put that day away, because worrying about it for another 5 hours rather than doing something for yourself before you go to bed, and before, instead of feeding yourself, you're sitting and worrying and staring at your screen or staring at your papers or staring at the additional things you could be doing. If they can wait till tomorrow, they should. And if you have not been able to tackle it in that day, write it down, close your screen, leave it in another room, and put that effort and that time and energy into yourself and something that replenishes you, because there's no return on worry. There really isn't. That was a hard won lesson.
It's so true. And it comes down to that wiring, right? The pattern recognition that we have, which is, we're trying to think, well, what's next? And are there patterns that may not have been from real life that we suddenly, and then the thoughts start spiraling. But there's a great segue actually, because I know you did a tremendous amount. You actually had purpose in your real life. You had some challenges where you're sort of wanting to go on a journey for yourself and find out more about emotion specifically, and mental health and well-being. And you met some incredible people. Do you want to share what some of the best learnings were that in some of that journey? Just what you feel comfortable with?
Sure. Yeah. I spent a long time. I was, I really had, if we're being candid and vulnerable, and I never know when people ask me to join these kinds of talks, how real you want.
Be real.
Yeah. So I think just being a woman and being a woman in a business that is, I'd like to say male dominated, but it's 100% male occupied. There was no woman that came before me in my field. There was no brilliant lion figure in the live entertainment business that wasn't a man prior. So I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anyone that would reach a hand back. I never felt that I could ask questions, that I could be curious. I was the only one. And there's just sort of an additional pressure to that, and a loneliness to that, and you end up in this cycle of being incredibly difficult and hard on yourself, I should say. And it just became, I heard someone say it, and it's absolutely true. It was true, or it's true for me, that, the things that we say to ourselves in our head, it's the meanest place in the world. We would never say the things that we say to ourselves to other people. We would never be that unkind to another person. And I just became really fascinated by that. I've never been as hard on another person as I am on myself. I would never say those things about failure and not good enough and never belonged here in the first place and imposter syndrome. I would never think it. I would never say it about another person. And I just became very curious about where that came from and why we're that way. And if there were ways to sort of mend, heal, reset those patterns. And I would talk to, one of the benefits of what I do is I have access to really smart people, the best and brightest. We work with everyone from Bill and Melinda Gates to, the finest in the, people trying to solve the big problems in the world. And the more smart people I talked to, the more I became interested in the study of the brain, how the brain works and how we're hardwired and how that happens and at what age. And if there might be any hope for rewiring yourself, are there things that we can do beyond just talk therapy? How did it happen and what can I do about it? Because I don't want to exist in that place in my mind where I'm constantly on loop repeating those things. And what I learned was you do get hardwired in your youth to do these things. It is the human condition. Your brain works in such a way. It's a brilliant machine, and it's self-protective, and it wants to protect you against disaster scenarios. So it takes you through disaster scenarios so that you're prepared. But what happens is that your body does have a chemical response. When you have your body, your brain, when it has a thought, it does not know the difference between you imagining that you're being chased by a bear and you actually being chased by a bear. And so it releases certain chemicals having to do with cortisol and your adrenals, and your body has a response. And your body over time, if you live in that fight or flight mode, in those thought patterns, your body over time will exhaust itself. And because I do live television and I'm responsible for hundreds of thousands of people, and we set off fireworks and explosions and pyro, and we're doing all kinds of things live, I was living being chased by a bear for 20 years, and my body and my brain, I was feeling the effects of that. And I was also feeling the effects of, woman in the space and being too hard on myself. And so I actually made it part of my job. I thought, I'll slow down, I'll do a little less in pop culture, and I'm going to go work with people who work in the mental health field, and I'm going to help them connect with the celebrity talent community who's also interested in this and suffering from certain things. And I'm going to connect these two worlds, and we're going to put that message out in a more meaningful way into the pop culture zeitgeist. Gaga, right? You see, like in the last 3 years, 5 years since we started that work, that a lot more Selena Gomez, Justin Bieber, there are a lot of people who have big microphones and big platforms that have been coming forward and being really transparent about the effects of social media and the way that the brain works. So I decided that I would make that part of my job, to understand it, to cold call my way into it, to connect what I do with purpose and integrity, to lending my little skill set to a bigger purpose and connecting these worlds and trying to connect people to those campaigns. And we've been successful. I do think we're moving the needle. There's a lot to be done, but it's helped me in my personal life. It's helped me with those narratives that trigger a chemical response that leads you to a bad place. And hopefully we're putting some, we're chipping away at the messages that are out there in the world and helping people to feel a little less alone.
That's it's wild. I just spoke to an extreme skier who lived in fear constantly because if she failed, she was dead, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she called it, she had a very intimate dance with fear. And she thought she loved skiing. She really loved the fear. But what's interesting is people kept calling her fearless. She wasn't fearless. She had a lot of fear. She just happened to like fear and the adrenaline rush and so on and so forth. I think, when I was talking to her, I said, yeah, fear can take many forms, obviously, and I think when fear in small doses is amazing, right? As you said, it keeps you aware, it keeps you alert and keeps us safe. But when it's constantly there, because as you say, a bear's been chasing you for the last decade, and there's just a little, it grows a little, it grows a little, it grows a little. Then suddenly it feels like there's something very heavy on our chests and that anxiety that's just burning. It's just that, and she responded to me and she said, yeah, but the best thing you can do in those settings is just sit with it and let it be there and say, oh, I'm feeling anxiety right now. Oh, where is it? It's right on my chest. It's feeling here. And then like breathing into it. And it's interesting. I tried it and it really, for me, it that actually, worked. But I'm curious, like, what are your go-tos that you learned in that? Because you're talking to the, best experts in the world. So tell me, what did you learn?
I learned that it's very helpful to interrupt, to be aware that the awareness that the exhaustion that we feel is very real. We are very vigilant. Your body has a chemical response to that. Your body has a chemical response. It's not just your brain. Oh, what's wrong with me? Right? I'm tired all the time. I'm exhausted. I'm feeling fatigued. It's not just mental. It's not just a state of mind. There's a chemical response that happens that causes you to feel exhausted and fatigued. That's biological. That's real. So that was the first big marker. So for me, that was, it's not just in my mind. And that was one thing that allowed me, it was very freeing because then you realize, okay, it's not this thing that I'm just not strong enough mentally to overcome. It's a thing that's actually happening. And if I can interrupt that, I'll interrupt this snowball of it's going to make me even more tired because this worry, this fear, is continuing with the fear and the worry, to continuing to think about it rather than stopping it, finding therapeutic ways to interrupt it and taking care of myself in that moment actually has this double, right? This double effect of you stopped the fear, you stopped the chemical response, and you will stop the additional fatigue that comes from just the biochemistry of that exhausts. So some of just in practical terms, just some of those things like stopping your day, that sounds so simplistic, but they do work. Just stopping your day and saying, there's no more return on this. If I just worrying about it isn't going to change it or make it better. Here are the things that I was able to get to today, and writing those accomplishments down so that you remember that you actually did a lot, because we forget what we've done and only think about what we haven't done. So I, every day, force myself to make a list of, here's what I did today. And I'm actually shocked at the end of the day that I got through a lot, and it's very strengthening. And then I write down the things that I didn't get to. And that way, when I wake up in the morning, I know that they're there. I'm not going to forget them. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to panic. They're right there. And then I'm comfortable closing my computer and saying, I know what I did. I know what I didn't do. I know where it is. And I know it's going to be here for me in the morning. And I actually make an appointment. I put worry aside and I make an appointment with myself to worry in the morning. I don't pretend that it's not going to be there. I just say, okay, I'm going to worry about that in the morning. I'm worried and I'm going to do that in the morning. So I step away from it. And then you find the things that work for you from there. Like, what can you put into your evening routine that does feed you in a different way, that does take you away from that does turn off that side of your brain and turn on a different side of your brain. For some people, it's podcasts. For some people, it's TV. Thank God it's TV. Thank you, everyone who watches it. That's how I pay my mortgage. But, it just, whatever, is it walking? Is it exercise? Is it time with your family? There are all of these studies that we're learning about this like tribe culture, which is the more you can surround yourself with people and like fit. We're also isolated through technology. We're also isolated in trying to get through our days. Just being around other human beings, touch and friendship and looking into someone's eyes versus just calling them on the phone or texting with them. The real humanity between us, reading someone's body language versus just, I could type right now to you, like on my darkest day, and we've all done it. We all know it. You can be sobbing on your darkest day, fetal in the corner with fear. And if someone, types something to you, you will literally write LOL or I'm good, things are great, right? It's like when someone can see you, when you're present, they'll know how you are and they'll ask how you are and they'll be with you. So even if you don't feel like it, trying to force yourself to be around other people so that it's possible, so that support and real exchange is possible, has been really big for me, because I would isolate when I wasn't feeling like myself.
It's so interesting because I'm a big believer that, I'm a Reiki practitioner. So we're just energy as human beings. And it goes back to that point, right? There are certain people, I'm not going to name them, but certain people walk into my life and immediately suck the energy from me. Yeah. I'm like, oh God, I'm exhausted. And then other people, it's like when you're on a first date or, my husband, for example, to this day, I still feel that energy, it's exciting. And it's like, it's still, there's certain people that just give you that energy. And I wonder if that's part of that connection, the connecting piece that we just have to renew that. I don't know. It's interesting.
I think teachers are the perfect example of that. Like, I did not come up in a healthy home environment. I had a very chaotic home environment, very young parents who were unprepared, just unstable. It just wasn't steady. And it was my teachers and walking into stable energy and focused energy and people who were grounded and focused on me and were looking at me like, how are you doing? And what do you need? And what can we do? And they were just steady and I get very emotional about it, but North Stars.
I love that. Did you have a favorite teacher?
I did. Mrs. Galuli in the 3rd grade. Saved my life.
Oh, good. I love it. I love that. Does she know she's your favorite?
Yeah, absolutely does. She absolutely does. I had an episode in my life that mirrored an episode of The West Wing, which was I was not a great student. She was the only one who really sort of believed. She was the only one who peeked behind the curtain and realized that the inconsistency in my work had to do with inconsistencies at home, and she talked to me about it, and that was so helpful because then I didn't feel like such a failure. I realized that there were reasons, and I used that as strength moving forward. And I never felt successful as a student, but I did make it later. And I remember the first time I produced something at the White House, I got to call her from the White House and tell her years and years later. And that was actually, there was an episode of The West Wing, circle back to working with Mrs. Obama and Aaron Sorkin on a West Wing special. There was an episode of The West Wing that was about that. It was about someone who worked, they got to call their favorite teacher who was retiring and say, I'm in the Oval Office and it's because of you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. All right, we're going to open it up to questions in a minute. So if you guys have any questions, just maybe put up your hand and let us know. But before we do, Casey, can I ask, do you have a favorite person that you've worked with so many incredible people? And I know if my husband was here, his favorite that you've worked with might be The Rock. But
That is my favorite person. That is true.
but who's your favorite? Like, are you allowed to say, or will that get you into trouble?
Oh, it's funny. Let me, not everyone that I work with becomes a friend. Like a lot of them are just professional, but a few of them I can mark in time where they did something they played a very significant part in my life. And John Krasinski, who was my lip sync battle. There was a time where he actually created Lip Sync Battle. That was his. He did it on Jimmy Fallon's show. So then we were all partners, and that's how they became partners. But it was really his. And there was a day we were just killing it. The show was on fire. It made more money. It was amazing. And I was booked for like 4 years. I couldn't be more booked and busy. And he came over for lunch. She's like, hey, I want to come over for lunch. I was like, came right here, sitting right over there. Came here for lunch, and he sat down, and he's so sincere. Like if you've seen anything he's in, he's just like the nicest, most sincere guy. And he's like, hey, I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you want to do? Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, what? I was so offended. I was like, what? What do you mean I'm killing it? Like, I didn't want to say it, but I was like, I'm killing it. I'm so successful. But what was behind that? He was so sincere. What was behind that was because I think you're capable of more and different. And he said, like, it was about award shows. And he was like, I see what you do, and you're calling celebrities and begging them to appear on a show, but you're capable of so much more. And I think you're capable of story. And I think you're capable of like film and narrative and all these things that had just occurred to me. I was the first in my field. I felt so lucky to have a job at all. There were no women who did it. I never thought beyond how lucky I was just to be employed doing something that I wanted to do. And that was the first time I'd ever thought about anything more. And it came from just, when I thought I was at the height of something, and he was like, hey, so, and he's so kind that I took it as he meant it. And it just planted a seed. And then Aaron Sorkin came along, and it was the first time I did film. It was the first time I did scripted. And then after that, I actually directed the Harry Potter film documentary. And I started directing for the first time. So that was the tipping point for me, believing, someone looking at me and saying, I believe that you are capable of more. So I will be grateful to him for that.
That's an amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Casey? Otherwise, we're going to go into the breakout soon, and you guys are going to get to go through your aha moments and share your strategies and so on and so forth. I know it's getting late for some of you guys on the East Coast. Anyone have any questions? Last chance. Casey, I have millions of questions. I'm gonna
battle question.
Yeah, there's a lip sync battle.
Oh, sorry.
Do it.
Do you have a favorite lip sync battle episode?
I do. I'm not supposed to tell the story, but I do. I have a couple.
It's the bubble. It's nice
bubble.
bubble.
It's a bubble.
You want to share?
I will say the Tom Holland Zendaya episode.
Oh.
I would say that one. I got a call from Sony saying we've made a new Spider-Man movie in secrecy. We have a new Spider-Man. He's much younger. The movie's much younger. And we haven't introduced him. We haven't revealed him to America yet. And we want to hand him to you. What would you do? And they were dumb enough, just naive enough to put Tom and I alone in a room together. And they said, okay, well, you guys figure it out, whatever you want to do. So Tom and I met, we became fast friends. He was Billy Elliot, so a dancer, sort of singer, dancer, performer in London. And we sort of came up with that he would do Rihanna, Umbrella. And we didn't think to go ask Sony's permission. We just did it. And when they saw it, they freaked out. They really freaked out. They were like, oh my God, he's Spider-Man. This is how we're going to introduce Spider-Man to the world. He's in drag. He's soaking wet. It's so risky. This is going to go everywhere. We're like, yeah, it's going to go everywhere. You want it to be viral. And he and I loved it so much that it became like me and Tom Holland against Sony and the Spider-Man machine. And I can say it now, I couldn't say it then, but he and Zendaya were actually a couple then, and no one knew it, like years before anyone knew. And we just sort of kept that secret for them. And they were so young and, you know, just new love. And it was just really, they were so sweet to each other. And they come into our bubble, and it's just like this private little world where you rehearse for a week. And they came with all their friends, and it was just a blast. He was really brave to do that, and it worked. It's the most viral episode ever. So that was one of them. Channing Tatum doing Beyonce was another. That was big. We had people faint.
Oh yeah.
When Beyonce came out.
So amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just one big party, that show, and which is what made it so fun. But it had this very, you know, nobody was made to look like an idiot, even though many of them really couldn't dance. But so you did an amazing job, I think, as a producer, where you really built people up and really gave people the opportunity to shine. Which
it was joy. I mean, really, it was just all fun. It was their favorite song. It was what they wanted to do. We were there just to help produce it, but they all had so much fun. But those were two that were just pretty. Channing had to, like, he got down, she wasn't coming. He was doing it, and it came down to the night before, and he filmed himself doing it on his phone, and then got down on one knee at the end of the dance and like literally proposed and said, please come save me, please come out. And we got a call in the middle of the night that she wanted to do it and that she was going to come, and I freaked out and I woke him up. And then we got a call from her saying she couldn't come because she couldn't get her glam team. But the reason she couldn't get her glam team is because I had her glam team doing Channing. So I was like, no, I got him. You can come. You can have them. So he got ready at like 4:00 in the morning so that they could then go to her and do her. And she refused. He was dying to meet her, but she refused. She's like, no, you wanted it. You got it. I'll see you out there. So the first time he met her, he was dressed as her, dancing as her live.
Amazing.
So I love that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And Andrew Silk asked a very brave question. He said, is it okay to think I'm capable of more than teaching, expanding my reach? I think it's always okay to think that you want to keep developing and keep driving and keep expanding and what it means to be a teacher. There's so many different definitions for that, right? So I think, you know, I don't think there should be a question. I think that you should continue to do whatever it is that is your purpose and that it feeds you and inspires you. And
curiosity is the journey. That's life.
Well, you said early, actually, when you were in your early career and you got kind of caught up in the money thing, you said that you felt you couldn't ask questions, which was very interesting because the rest of your purpose-driven things was all about curiosity.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And just sort of bravery, just feeling like I felt so lucky to be there. I didn't know that I would ever have the courage to take a leap. And then every once in a while, if you're looking for those signs and you stay open and you stay curious, they reveal themselves to you. You know, mine was just a look in the eye of a friend who came over for lunch one day. It's like, so what are you going to do? Right? It's like, what do you mean? But every once in a while, like those signs are there. Like that's really someone just going, leap. It's okay.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. All right. If anyone has any more questions, quickly put up your hand, because otherwise I think we're going to go into breakouts, and then because I know some people are going to get tired and want to go to bed. So I'm going to say good night to my beautiful friend. Thank you, Casey. I adore you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
And it was super fun. And can we maybe send some of the links that were like your go-to links to the community?
There are
Like,
lots. We didn't get to them, but there are lots of practical tools and things that have helped me greatly that I'll send you a big long list.
can you send a couple of really like funny things too? Because I think that the power of like inspiration and laughter and comedy to really y'all too is like when you only have a couple minutes to watch a video or something like that, it can be really fun. Like a Channing Tatum, you know, in drag on stage.
I absolutely will. I have as many fails as I have wins, and we have plenty of those funny stories. I will also say, just in closing, I did not appreciate failure early on, and that's what I've learned recently, which is that you and I talked about this, but it needs a rebranding. Failure and failing big and often is the fastest path to your truth and your path and the things that you really want to do. You have to like swing big and try hard and fail as big and as often as you can to on your way to things, not letting that fear hold you back. There is no other way to succeed. And it's one of those golden keys to life. Wish I'd learned so much sooner because I was so afraid to make a mistake that I wasn't trying enough. And so I'm only sort of trying those big things now. And I'll send some things along those lines. I'll send that too, because that's something that I'm like right in the middle of. So I'll share that with all of you. And I'm so honored to have been asked here today. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. That's amazing. All right. So we're going to go into our breakout rooms, and here's what we're going to do in our breakout rooms. We're going to first talk about the aha moment. And then Andy, can you send the Padlet link to everyone? We're going to put it in the chat. So this is the Padlet. If every breakout can just have one scribe, and then we're going to share these aha moments and strategies back to the group, just because I think it's helpful when you guys are a community to also share ideas, and then you have other things as well, different perspectives. So we're just going to spend 10 minutes because I know people want to go to bed. So 10 minutes in breakouts, and then we're going to share out the Padlet afterwards. So please come back and we'll see you guys soon. Let's open those breakouts. So nice to see you guys all, and we will see you soon. And don't forget to put your commitments in on the dashboard and opt in for the lovely coat. It's worth almost $700. So go and enjoy. We'll keep you warm. Good night, guys. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You guys.
Thank you. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.